Originally released on the 8th of February 2024, Helldivers 2 became so popular on PC that has crushed servers multiple times, with all-time peak players being on the 24th of February, 458,709 players for PvE shooter. That's impressive. But because of Sony politics, starting 3rd of May, daily players decreased, with the latest peak being on the 13th of December, when new faction Illuminates were released and player count went from 21,000 to 130,000 in a day. Now players count is between 30 and 50,000 depending on the day and the time. But one then, in my opinion, the game is dying. Helldivers 2 idea was players versus Game Master, live service PvE squad shooter, but the main problem since the release was leveling, which is getting bigger and bigger with every single month, both the problem and the leveling. During gameplay we find resources, the same samples, usual rare and super rare. We find and earn requisitions, in other terms money. Find and earn medals, which are used to move further in battle passes, and sometimes we find super credits, which is donation currency. Using everything above, resources are being used to upgrade the ship and receive passive buffs during the fight, requisitions or money to get new stratagems and to upgrade ship on later levels, medals to move further in the battle pass, and super credits for cosmetics in Superstore and to buy battle passes. Okay, the game has battle passes, so does Call of Duty, Battlefield and many other shooters. The problem with Helldivers 2, if you are not buying super credits to buy battle passes, and one battle pass is something around 10 euro, you will be very limited. In classical battle pass, typical stuff are cosmetics. In Helldivers 2, weapons. Primary, secondary throwables, armor with specific abilities. Yes, the first and largest battle pass is available to everyone for free, but it contains very small amount of weapons, which limits you a lot. While talking about leveling, you have a ship by default, and so you have few things to upgrade. There comes the stratagems, which are the most useful during the battle, but what I want to tell you is that there are some weapons, as for example this one starting from the yellow and ending with the Borderline Justice hover pack, that can be opened only through war bonds. As you can see, with Chemical Agent, Sterilizer and Guard Dog Breath I have not opened, since I do not have this war bond even opened, but Urban Legends, for example Directional Shield, it's kinda okay, I've used it a couple of times, but anti-tank emplacement is imbalanced. Since when you're doing some missions, as for example when you're defending some place or when you are exterminating some of, let's say, automatons, in that case anti-tank emplacement is really balanced, since it is anti-tank, it comes in Hellpot and you can control it directly. Something similar will be available only on the bridge, which will be available to all of you, and that's HMG emplacement. It is heavy armor penetrating, but at the same time it would do close to nothing to different types of ships. Next thing is a portable Hellbomb. It's also very imbalanced, since it's also anti-tank, it's explosive, it's backpack, and you can call it unlimited times after cooldown. And essentially it is really great thing, but it is also hidden behind the battle pass or war bond. But talking about modules, in the ship modules you can update 6 units. So as you can see right now, I have everything opened, and as you can see in the upper right corner, there are being shown how many resources I do have. The difference with the resources is that with the latest update you can donate these resources to the Democratic Space Station, but still it is pretty questionable thing to have, since you are collecting resources for the thing that you have so little impact to. And now talking about Orbons or battle passes. If we're talking about battle passes and donation currency, so the first thing is actually war bonds, and as you can see you have lots of them. This one war bond is available to all of the people as soon as they purchase the game, and as you can see right here you have not so much weapon. So this one is the top weapon you can be available in the 3 war bonds. The most adequate weapon over here is Liberator Penetrator. It is a standard weapon, but with the only difference of penetrating medium armor. So that makes it really good, but at the same time it doesn't give you the same thing as gives you any other war bonds. War bonds cost around 10 years per piece, or 1000 donation currency or super credits. In Borderline Justice, the latest battle pass, you have only 3 pages, the same as with any other except the first one, which is free. So if you want to have armor with this spec of Gunslinger, which increases sidearm reload speed by 40%, draw and holster speed increased by 50% and recoil reduced, then you need to buy this warbond. Let's go to Servants of Freedom, previous before that. As told before, Portal Hell Bomb, which is pretty balanced as well, they even have to nerf it straight after the release. And here we go to Ultimatum. That's, despite being medium armor penetrating and one-handed, it's explosive. And that's sidearm what is more important. So it's the only explosive weapon with such much damage available in game. So 4500. If we will compare anything else, you will see that the damage will be drastically smaller. So, and on the first page you have double-edged sickle. What does it mean? It means that you have weapon which can penetrate both light, medium, heavy armor, but it produces heat. So essentially, when you are shooting, at first you will be penetrating light armor and you will not penetrate medium armor. Then with the heat you will be able to penetrate medium armor and heavy armor after that. You do not have such weapon anywhere else with such fire rate, since fire rate here is 700. And you cannot find anything similar with such specs, with such stats, with such fire rate and with heavy armor penetrating at the end. And also, as told before, let's go to the body armor. Integrated explosives, armor explodes after 1.5 seconds after wearer dies. You cannot get it anywhere else. Talking about democratic detonation, and here we have one of the best weapons available, with exploding crossbow. Exploding crossbow, same as before, medium armor penetrating, explosive, and that's main weapon. So you are not dealing the same 4000 damage as was dealing the same sidearm which I have shown you before, but at the same time you can shoot much faster, and the capacity is not 1 but the capacity is 5. And once again, it's in the warbond. Want to get some other weapon with a bit more fire rate? Here you have a Raptor, also in the warbond, and one of the main imbalanced things if you're talking about grenades, and that's thermite. Right now, on the highest levels, almost everybody uses thermite because it damages 2000. The penetration is 7, which is one of the greatest penetrations available, and it's anti-tank. As you can see, you need to get it in order to be able to compete on highest levels and in order to enjoy the play and not suffer from every single one of the enemies except the lowest ones. And going next, the same superstore, it is updated every 24 hours, and as you see, you have pretty much the same specs, it's just cosmetics in most cases. Of course, sometimes you can get something special, but for that you need super credits. As you see, for 1000 super credits, which is necessary in order for you to get a warbond like at once, you need to pay 10 euros. Of course, if you are willing to pay 20 euros, you can get 2100 super credits, but at the same time you get it that it's a lot, since you have lots of warbonds, and in most of them there is only 1 or 2 decent things. As for example, I suppose it was in Steel Veterans, we had this one, Senator Pistol. It is heavy armor penetrating, again, it's the only weapon which is heavy armor penetrating if we're talking about a sidearm, and which is located in a paid battle pass. So you need to buy warbonds, but if you're playing Synth Watch regularly, it's pretty easy to find super credits on location. You need 1000 super credits for 1 battle pass, and on a map you can usually find around 10 or 20 credits if you are lucky enough and if you are looking for it hard enough. So in a month you'll get what you need, more or less. But if you are a new player, you'll need to buy close to everything already released in the game in terms of battle passes to be able to play on levels where the most fun is, and that will be levels 8 to 10. And to be essentially independable unit without need to constantly run away from certain type of enemies. Of course, there are ways for super credit farming. You are going to the planet, looting, closing the game, repeating the same planet. But you will be doing that for, what, 8 hours? And that's if you are really lucky enough. Some YouTube videos state of earning around 1000 super credits in an hour. You need around 11,000 super credits to open all of the war bonds. Sure, each war bond has around 300 super credits in it, but still, let's say 8000 super credits and you'll get 3000 from the field. That's 50 euros, just to be able to go through battle passes and get weapons. Same battlefield has lots of weapons already available without battle passes. So summarizing the chapter, $40 for the game, and at least $50 to open part of the battle passes to get some useful stuff from them. 80% of battle passes, to be honest, are useless, but the rest 20% is really imbalanced. Now, developer Arrowhead is part of Sony Studios, so they depend on Sony, and mother company tries their best to ruin one of the most successful projects for PlayStation 5 generation. Removing game from the regions where PlayStation Network is not available, not adding new countries to PlayStation Network for like what, 10 years? I live in European Union, but my country is not on PlayStation Network list, so I cannot buy any games from Sony, including Helldivers, because my Steam account is in the same country that is unfortunately unavailable for PlayStation Network. Why is that important? Limited potential amount of new players. One of the reasons Steam got popular, convenience. If people will need to buy keys somewhere else or look for some trustworthy shop and so on, they'll just leave everything as it is, and for PvE live service, amount of constant players is crucial. So all players will leave, since after upgrading everything possible and opening everything possible except newest battle passes and achieving top level, which is 150, resources except medals and super credits are worthless. And in that scenario, when new player influx is smaller, the game will be financial burden, so Sony is interested only in profit. The best case scenario for the game and the players, opening options for fan servers and maybe PvP, otherwise the game will die in the near future. Also, one of the problems I've met, hardware requirement. The game doesn't have DLSS upscaling or frame generation, or FSR for the instance. So requirements are not the lowest possible. Still possible to play on Steam Deck, even has specific graphics preset, but 30 FPS with drops up to 15. But that only now. Why? Developers are trying to implement something new as fast as they can, and the latest issue, when 4070 GPU showed 30 FPS in 1080p when at the release it was close to 90, was when with the update enemies AI got more complicated. Why it impacted so much? I'm playing on higher levels, 8 to 9, and there are tons of enemies at once on screen, and each of them now had a more complicated behavioral pattern. So you needed either better hardware or you needed to lower everything you can. If you think that this is an isolated event, you are pretty wrong. Developers will have to add new enemies, new factions to the game to keep it fresh, and with each edition, requirements will be higher. So another stone to the potential grave. Now talking about performance issues. Let's open options and let's see my stats. As you can see right now in the upper left corner, I have 46 FPS. Of course, I'm running OBS right now, but mostly it is 50-55 FPS when I'm on the ship. When I am in the battle, it's mostly close to 30. So display, I have 4070, resolution 2K, render scale balanced. So frame limit 60 right now, because otherwise it would be pretty useless. This thing of course turned off. And if we're talking about graphics, the same graphics of medium high I've been using ever since the release of the game. But ever since the release of the game I was getting around 90 FPS, but right now I am getting the much you can see right now. Another problem, disconnect. I have very good internet with which I have had no issues before, but only in Helldivers 2 I got disconnected during the game on a regular basis. Everything around freezes, and after a couple of minutes I am all alone and the whole squad sees that I've disconnected while I am talking to them on Discord. There are also reports of crashes and other problems, but it's hard for me to comment on that since I have not met it regularly. And so right now let's have a look at what the most popular weapons are. Of course most stratagems will be available, in just with few exceptions like the same anti-tank emplacement, but if we're talking right here, with Terminites. The first one is paid, second one paid, third one, surprisingly, is with the basic Battle Pass available, Liberator Penetrator, but over here we do not have the difference from difficulty. Like if we will go to the same 10th difficulty, in that case we will see that a Raptor and everything else is paid, and only Scorcher is somewhere over here with 3.2% only using it, but these people will be using it from the non-paid Battle Pass. And the same Liberator Penetrator will be one of the latest. The same goes to Illuminates. With Illuminates on the 10th difficulty, you have the same Deadeye, 6.2%, Double-Edged Sickle as I have shown you, 4.8%, Exploding Crossbow, and only 4th place is being able to play with the default weapon which is available. And also, as you can see, the same Liberator Penetrator is available over here, but mostly these weapons are being paid for. So if you want to enjoy the game in its mostly fully, in that case you really need to pay for all of these. In any case, I like Helldivers, and I'm glad that I started playing straight after the release. But unfortunately, due to pricing policy, regional policy of Sony and technical additions, the game will be dead pretty soon unless something drastically changes. So if you're thinking about joining Helldivers, I would not recommend that unless you're into spending $40 on the game, around $50 to open part of the battle passes, which will give you part of normal weapons and armor, and just wait for the game to close, since as I see it now, this live service doesn't have bright future with Sony maintaining its current course.